Good morning, true crime friends. Here we are, back together again on a bright Thursday morning. I'm about to go to the gym. Oh, I need a cup. I mean a sip of coffee. Look, there's not a ton going on in true crime right now, right? But there's a couple of cases that I want to check out. So I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about this morning because there's not a lot going on. Plus, I want to go to the gym. I slept in a little bit. I slept in until like 3:40, something like that. Oh, it was glorious. I love sleeping in. But listen, I just saw the most fascinating video. It was about your friend and mine, your enemy and mine, Miss Vallow Daybell. So apparently she's over at the PWCC, the Pocatello Women's Correctional Facility, Correctional Center, something like that, where they do like intake. Look, for the uninitiated, and I only know this from the internet because you know how I feel about jail, not going to visit you. That's not for me. They have you in, and this is where they, like when you first get sentenced to prison, like life or a longer term or whatever, they invite you in, they have you in shackles and, you know, the little jail pajamas, whatever, and they process you in. So I was like, ooh, what is this process like? But first, before I tell you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, make comments, do all the things. I feel very bossy when I have all of those demands of you. They're not demands, they're friendly requests. So anyway, look, the warden over there at PWCC gave an interview with none other than our very own Nate Eaton. And I was like, oh, okay, warden, what do you have to say? Somehow in my mind, the warden was going to be like this big, mean, tough chick who was like, I demand, blah, 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 blah. Not at all. This warden either has really lovely hair or a very good wig. Either way, her hair looked glamorous to me. To be clear, I'm not a wig girl, right? Wigs are just not my thing. And every time I see somebody with a wig, I think, ooh, sorry about your hair. But I don't know that that's even the case. There's some gorgeous wigs out there. They're just not for me. Okay, so look. So this lady with the good hair is on here and she's like, Nate, we don't call them inmates. We call them residents. Oh, we at college now? Okay. Residents. Nate was like, he's so polite. Those Idahoans, is that what they're called? Idahoans, Idaho folks, I don't know, potato people, whatever. The good people of Idaho seem to have very lovely prisons. Now, this was strictly PR. Was this lady telling the truth? Was she putting her best foot forward or whatever? No clue. But what she had to say was fascinating. She was like, so the residents enter our facility and then we give them some clothing items. I was like, okay, what that mean? What the stripes, bright orange, your size is on the back, which is really the true crime. And she was just like, and then they go through the intake process. Sounds like a hospital to me, but okay. And then she's like, and then they have their options where they could see a dentist and they could see a doctor, they could see a nurse, they could get their medical needs treated, their psychological needs treated. And then we sign them up for classes, they work, and I'm like, do prisoners still make license plates? Is Lori making license? I don't know. This is what concerns me, and maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't, right? I think that prisoners should be, or residents should be treated humanely, right? Because the truth is, most of them are going to go back to society. So I don't want them to spend a bunch of years getting like beat up and terrible things happening to them, and then you turn them back out on the streets. We don't need that. I don't want you to be my neighbor, my lady up the street, my kid's school teacher, bus driver, whatever. No, thank you. So, but at the same time, like, I want them treated well. I want them treated humanely and kindly and have good food and whatever. Only not Vallow Daybell. Do we get to vote? Can we just be like, okay, she gets good treatment, she gets bad treatment. If you're there for life, can you get used to it? The file footage that they show was a lady in the library. She might have even known the Dewey Decimal System. I'm telling you right now. She was like all tattooed up and she had like the braids going back in her hair. And she was like, now that I've been here, I believe in myself. Is this a commercial for prison? Are y'all advertising? Please commit a crime in Idaho, but not a really bad one where you have to be here for life. But you come here and you can go to college, you can get your GED. It's like Job Corps. Y'all, I have questions. Now, everybody who's going to ultimately end up back in society, I want them treated well. I want them educated. I want them well fed. I want them to not have any reason to go back to a life of crime. Only not Lori. I feel like when you out here unaliving people by the dozens like Lori was, then you might not get. Is it me? Does it mean I'm a bad person? Like, I'm watching this video and I was like, this bitch. I think maybe I'm a bad person, and I'm fine with that, right? That's a cross I'm willing to die on. I am willing to be considered a bad person if I think that Mrs. Daybell does not deserve good treatment. As an aside, an eagle-eyed viewer pointed out that in Miss Lori's mugshot, she was still wearing her wedding ring. Was it the Masonite, Markinite, whatever it was that she had on her finger? Is she still seeing Chad in the portal? Is Chad still coming to visit her in the portal? They getting that portal action on? Okay, so I would be concerned if I thought portals were real. I think that the portal was strictly in Lori's crazy mind. And is Chad still writing to her? Is he willing to be in touch? Is she still just like closing her eyes and in her mind, she's having tea with Tammy, the lady she helped to unalive, and Tammy's husband? If I was Tammy, Tammy's supposed to be busy in heaven, according to Lori. But if I was Tammy, I would be busy haunting her behind, giving her no good night's sleep and permanent PMS. I'm just saying, I would be mad. I'm mad on behalf of Tammy. I did not know Tammy. Some of the things I've heard about Tammy, I've heard she was a lovely, nice person. I've also heard that she was mean and cold and her family members didn't like her. Okay. I mean, her kids and them liked her, but her sister-in-law was throwing all the shade in the world. This is what I have a question about, right? The way I was raised, you're not supposed to say nothing about the dead unless it's good. And my mother has a famous saying in our family: don't say anything about the dead unless it's good. He's dead. Good. That's kind of how I feel about Alex Cox. Like, he can go. He can. Please enjoy hell, you know, because I'm like, I don't want you around here. I don't even want you in prison. Please enjoy the inner city where the flames are licking up at your behind all day, every day. You sitting there next to Lucifer. Maybe y'all can have a nice hot cup of cocoa or something like that. I don't know, because they Mormon, you know, no alcohol. Although, how Mormon was he? Because he was out here doing the horizontal mambo with a whole bunch of ladies. He was a good-looking guy, but he was a little bit crazy. Can you imagine finding out your ex-boyfriend, ex-husband was out here unaliving people? I would look at myself. I would be like, how bad is my taste in partners if my ex has unalived dozens of people and I never suspected, and I once upon a time thought he was cute and was even willing to, like, you know, swap gravy with this dude? Like, I don't know. What are my ex-boyfriends up to? My mind is all over the place today. I did not have a set topic when I sat down here. I was like, well, we just gonna see what rises up in my spirit. And what has risen up in my spirit is prison. Now, I don't want to know that much about prison. I could find out about prison because my husband, bless his heart, grew up in the inner city, in the hood. And so he knows some people who are longtime residents of some of the fine correctional facilities around the state of New York. And periodically he writes to them. My husband is a very, very good person. But because I would be like, write you a letter for what? Anyway, and they say when somebody first goes away, all the friends and family are like, we're going to write you a letter. We're going to be pen pals, whatever. Then a couple years go by and they're like, who? Oh, yeah, I remember that dude. Because like the outside world totally forgets about you. My husband, bless his heart, has a childhood friend who did a terrible thing. I'm not even going to go into it because it is bad. We would have been talking about it here on True Crime. But it was like, you know, a dispute with his neighbors that went bad. Very, very bad. And he's doing something like 3 life sentences. I don't know. It's a long time. My husband still writes him letters, sends him but apparently now it's emails. You can email a prisoner. But for years, my husband went like, I don't know, 3 times a year. It's not like he was writing a man all the time, but bless his heart, he made the effort because I wouldn't. He's been to see him and like a bunch of guys from the neighborhood, all car pulled up to go see him. And he was like, I was like, oh, you want me to make you guys a picnic basket? Where y'all going? Oh, have a good day. Like, I support him supporting his friend because he's just like a really amazingly decent guy. How did he end up with me? Because I am a mess. But he is a stellar human being. Oh, speaking of which, I have to tell you a funny story about my husband. But anyway, he would go see his friend, and now he's just like, I have to buy stamps. He was asking me how to buy stamps online. I was like, what? And then it turns out they were prison stamps. Prison got their own stamps? Apparently. Now, if I send you an email, I just type in your email address and send it. Prison is like, oh, no. This is going to be a money-making effort for us. So for every email, every letter you send, you have to put a stamp on it. And the stamp costs $1, $2, whatever. It costs some certain amount of money. And so you write your email, and then you buy a stamp to put it on. That's just a cash grab. Also, an excellent business idea. And then he was like, oh, I want to send him pictures from like whatever local event in the neighborhood. So I have to buy, like if with real stamps, if you send in a heavy package, then you have to buy extra postage. He had to buy extra postage for the pictures that he was emailing. Emailing stuff is free. I mean, somebody's paying for it, but it's not me. It's not you. Unless you're in prison. The Bureau of Prison is making bank. I don't think it's a good idea to have for-profit prisons, but now I'm like, what can I supply to a prison? Because there's a lot of people. You can make your little cash, if you know what I mean. Anyway, as an aside, listen, here's an impromptu apropos of nothing, but it's my favorite husband story, right? So my husband, as I said, is an inner city man, right? He grew up in a high rise in the South Bronx, aka the PJs, also known as the projects, right? Fine. So where he grew up, there was like no grass, right? It's all like concrete and patios. And there were some gardens and some shrubs and stuff, but like there was no dude out here like pushing a lawnmower. So as a result, my husband did not grow up cutting grass. He don't know nothing about no grass. He could tell you about the subway system. He could tell you about taxi cabs. He could tell you about all things New York City. And he has a positively encyclopedic knowledge of all things hip hop. Me, on the other hand, am hard pressed to name 2 hip hop people with a gun to my head. I was raised very suburban. So basically, we're in a mixed marriage, right? So I know all about grass. I know that you need to hire a nice man to get on the lawn and take care of it and whatever. But when we first got together, when we bought our first house, this was, 20 years ago, something. I've been with this man forever. We first got together, in my suburban dreams, right? We were going to buy this house. We bought this beautiful 5-bedroom house on a cute block with a little lawn. And I was like, oh, every Saturday he's going to like drink a beer or a soda and he's going to cut the grass. But he was like, nah, that grass is fine. And I was like, baby, we can't see the kids out there. And he was just like, we can see the tops of their heads. Like, what is the problem? And I was like, oh my God, we fought so much over the grass. And finally, I was like, we're going to hire somebody. He's like, don't be ridiculous. We're not hiring nobody. So the whole first year we lived in the house, back and forth about this stupid grass. I felt like if I walked on the grass and it touched my ankles, it was too tall. He felt like if the kids went out there and we could still see any part of their body, then they were fine. Our kids at the time were like 3 and 13, something like that, because those first 2 were very like a big age gap apart. So I was like, oh God. So for the second year, I was like, we not doing this. Maybe it was the second half of the first year because it was relatively soon. I was like, I'm not going to fight with you about this. And he was like, I don't want to spend the money. It doesn't make sense to spend the money. You're not working. I was a stay-at-home mom. He was working full time. So he's like, we need to save money, pinch our pennies, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm pregnant, whatever. And I was like, listen. He's delightful, and he treats me like a queen, the way I deserve to be treated, the way all women deserve to be treated. But this grass, I'm this close to smothering his behind in his sleep. So to resolve the problem, I was like, I'm just going to hire a man to do the lawn. Problem is, in North Jersey, you can't hire a man to do the lawn mid-season. I'm thinking, I'm dumb enough to think you just call up a company and be like, hey, can you come and cut my grass? And they say yes, and then that's that. No, that's not how it works. People who get their grass cut, which is mostly everybody, has a service that they've had for years, and lots of places don't have openings. And I was like, wait, I just moved to the suburbs. I don't know nobody out here, and now I have to somehow find a person to cut my grass when there's no openings. And the people who had openings were like, yes, we could cut your postage stamp size lawn for $5,000 a month. And I was like, oh no, thank you, because I need to be able to pinch this money out my grocery money so my husband don't notice that it's happening. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And then a man came out handing flyers saying he was starting a grass cutting business. I was like, when can you start? And he was like, oh, I could start on, Saturday, whatever the day was. And I was like, it needs to be midweek while my husband is at work. And he was like, okay, so I'll come on Tuesdays. And so he started coming on Tuesdays, and then the grass got cut and the edging and the snow shovel removal and all of that. But that was at the end of the first season. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I am no longer fighting with my husband. This is a perfect solution to me. I'm like, I'm living my best suburban life. Got a big belly out to here, sitting back, sipping a cup of lemonade, trying not to gain too much weight because, I got fat as a cow with that second baby. Anyway, so the winter comes, and then the next spring happens, and I go out to the Home Depot, and I get one of those weed and feed things. You know how you turn it and like the seeds fly out the bottom? So I'm walking through the yard, and I'm putting out my little weed and feed, and my husband looks out the window, and he says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm putting weed and feed on the lawn. And he went, okay. And then we literally never discussed the grass again. Never had a conversation about it. And the nice man came every Tuesday and cut the grass and did all the edging and did everything. And then he went on about his business, and I paid the man. It wasn't that much money because he was a new business. He was just starting out. He was grateful for the business. I was grateful for the grass cutting. Everybody's living happily ever after. About halfway through the summer, we have a party at our house, right? Like a dinner party. And my husband's best friend, who also grew up in the South Bronx, was there. And he's like, and our house is filled with people, right? It's like a dinner party. Everybody's mixing, mingling, eating, drinking, having a lovely time. And so I see my husband talking to his best friend, and they're pointing at me. And I'm like, what? And he was just like mouthing something. I have no idea what they're saying, right? So my Dennis, who my husband calls his brother, it's his best friend, but they refer to each other as brothers. So his brother, I think of him as my brother-in-law. So my brother-in-law is like weaving through the people with the plate, and he's all excited. And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm buying a house. I was like, oh my God, congratulations, blah, 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 getting all the details. And he was like, but it has a yard, and I'm concerned because I don't know anything about cutting grass. And he's like, but Shalom said that early in the year, you put something on the grass, and that he hasn't had to cut the grass all year. You guys have stopped fighting about it. It's the most amazing thing. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, he said it's something that you do like this, and like something comes out and it makes the grass not grow. And my brother hasn't had to cut the grass all year. I have to know what this product is. And I was like, weed and feed? He was like, yeah. Okay, so where do I get weed and feed? And I was like, if you pay attention to that title, weed means it kills the weed. Feed means it feeds the lawn, which is actually going to make it grow more, not less. And he was like, right, but what kind do you get to make the grass not grow? So now I see my husband working his way through the crowd. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? And my husband says, you put that stuff on the lawn and made the grass not grow. And I was like, I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, the lawn looks beautiful. Everything looks lovely. And I assume it's because you put that stuff on it. I was like, you know what I put on that grass? A man named Jose every Tuesday. He was like, you're paying to get the grass cut? I said, for like 10 months now. You thought the grass magically didn't grow? And he was like, I never had to cut it. We stopped fighting about it. I figured it was that stuff you put on at the beginning of the year. I was like, oh, bless your heart. You sweet, precious butterfly. That is not at all what happened. And he was just like, for real? You're paying to get the grass cut? I said, no. And he was like, oh, okay, good. And then he wandered off. He had a couple beers, so I think he didn't think about it that hard. And after that, I just refused to discuss it. And then when he forgot about it, I just let him forget. And so my brother-in-law, Dennis, goes and he gets some weed and feed because the two of them together, sweet Jesus. Thank God they're pretty. So he gets himself some weed and feed, and he puts the weed and feed on his lawn. And then he says to me, he's like, Kathy, my grass is growing so fast. I said, you heard me say I put a man named Jose on it. He said, oh, Shalom said you was kidding. And I was like, I was not kidding. The man come every Tuesday. But shh, don't tell him. I don't need this smoke. I don't need the heat in my life. And he was just like, dang, I'm going to have to pay somebody. I was like, brother, or buy a lawnmower. Y'all going to have to work that out. That ain't got nothing to do with me. But you know what I do know? It's hard to find a lawn man at the end of the year. And if my lawn man is available, I'm going to give him your number because, that cutting grass situation is no joke. Listen, all of that to say, I told you it was an impromptu, apropos of nothing, because I'm talking here for 20 minutes, ain't said a doggone thing, except for Vallow Daybell is in a nice cush prison, and my husband didn't know nothing about cutting no grass. Only now, we've been out here for 20 years, and he knows all about cutting grass. Not that he does it, please do not get me wrong. He does not cut grass, partially because he had an accident, blah, blah, blah. He has an injured foot, and so he can't cut grass. But prior to the accident, he ain't know nothing about cutting no grass then. This is the way my marriage works. And this is none of y'all business, but I'm going to give you a little insider tip if you a wife. just do what you need to do. Well, if your husband says, I want dinner here every night at 6 o'clock, you just say, okay, baby, and you make sure dinner is there. Does that mean you have to cook it? Absolutely not. If you can make a pot roast, girl, then put your pot roast in the oven. But if you need to just go on down to the Whole Foods and buy you a whole roast chicken or the Kroger or whatever you got, slice it up, put it on your own plate, there you go. That is a pro tip from me to you. From a longtime wife to those of you who may be new in the game. I'm here putting y'all up on game. This is not true crime. This is True Housewives right here of North Jersey. Okay, I need to take my behind to the gym because always trying to stay cute. Always trying to stay cute. And I got to figure out the problem with having hair now is that now I have to figure out what to do with it. Maybe I'll go for a mohawk today. I'm going to do a whole mohawk situation. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something with this hair. Oh, look, that works. Where's a rubber band? Look, I'm about to tie this mess up and take my behind to the gym and get cute. Ooh, and my Aura ring is done charging. Okay, y'all have a great, safe day. I have things to do today. There's an apropos of nothing dropping today. Or is it true crime? I don't know. Something's going to show up in this channel right at noon. I recorded it on Sunday. I have no recollection at all of what it is. But I have ideas for the next true crime series for next week. I'm very, very excited about it. I can hardly wait to show you what it is. You have a great, safe day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.